it play and call it work.
Hi there, Chris here with this week's Sit and Talk. This week is going to be answering questions by me. Next week's will be MiniWarGamer Steve. So for any questions for him, have @4Steve. And of course, if you're responding to anything I've said in this video, then of course it's just @Chris. But I think we know the drill by this point. And so let's just dive right into it. We have Mac Hawk. Kris, oh painting god, how did you get involved in MiniWarGaming in the first place? Can we get the origin story of MiniWarGaming, Kris? The origin story. Holy moly, the origin story. Well, at the time I was living in a different city, further north in northern Ontario, and I was just working other jobs. In fact, at the time, I was driving taxi at the time, and I was already a fan of MiniWarGaming. I had come down for a tournament, and I had come down for a Apocalypticon, and so just kind of meet the guys and stuff like that. The usual kind of thing, right? And I was already aware of MiniWarGaming, and I was a really big fan of the videos. What really kind of got me into MiniWarGaming was the very humorous side of stuff. The funnier videos, like Dave's Green Stuff videos, where it was like there's kind of like these silly kind of TV kind of ads for green stuff, and I thought they were just hilarious. And so basically they had put out an ad for a painter to paint miniatures, create painting tutorials and things like that. And so I figured, well, I've been painting a long time, and I've been painting since I was a young fella. About 88, 89 is usually where I put that date around, and so that's when I discovered all of this. And so I've been painting a long time, into the hobby for a long time, and so I figured I had something to offer, something anyway. And I answered it, and it was a couple Skype conversations, and I started working remotely from them, and then it was only a couple of tutorials a month out of me, and then so finally we said, well, let's ramp the production up, and let's see what we can do. And so I moved down here to the headquarters in Welland, in the Niagara area of Ontario, and it's been fun ever since. So that's pretty much it. It's really not a really dramatic story or terribly interesting story, but yeah, in a nutshell, that's it. I mean, it's it was pack the family up, move down, and come down here. I mean, it's taking a bit of a chance, because you never know what can happen, right? Especially small businesses and things like that. But it was the first time I ever felt like I was in my career path. I went to college for art, and so I was doing odd jobs. I mean, as any artist knows, that it is hard to find work in their field, and so again, so now I've got something in my field that I'm quite pleased with. So yeah, that's it. The Uninvisible Man. Kris, I recently started painting miniatures for my friends. At first it was a birthday present, but some have offered to pay me for the work. I don't have much talent, but I paint model to what I'm proud to be proud of, to put on a table and push against other men's in the assault phase. I enjoy painting, magnetizing, and converting models, whilst my friends do not always get much pleasure out of it, preferring the wargaming aspect instead. How should I value my work? I gave the figure of half of the models value as a baseline, but beyond that I give no time frame, though I make it a priority whenever I am modeling. No assurances of quality. I simply do it so as far as I've been very happy with it. But how should I begin valuing this? I have no intent on becoming a professional painter, but I would like to know how I should be approaching this aspect of the hobby. Commissions, for a lack of a better term, or aspect of the hobby, commissions, for lack of a better term. Do you have any advice for me? Sorry if this is a long question. Just looking for some help. So, yeah, valuing your work. That's a tough one. That's a tough one every artist has to come up with. And for myself, I mean, like doing a commission, I mean, like I've done commission in the past, and I wasn't terribly happy with it. Just something about the aspect of it, I don't know. I just constantly, just the repetition of it really is what kind of bothers me, I think. Not to say that, commission painting isn't for everybody. I mean, there's some people out there who are great commission artists who can just, hammer through a project and get spectacular results every time. And, my hat's off to them because, I mean, they're a machine, man. I mean, like, I don't know how they do it. As far as valuing your work, though, I mean, like for myself personally, whenever I'm charging commission in recent days, I always tell them it's 3 times the retail, because that's about roughly what my time and time frame and anything kind of realistic in that kind of fashion. Now, if you're charging somebody, a fairly high amount like that, then you should be able to get it done in a pretty quick kind of time frame. But if you're giving your customers no time frame as to when it's coming up, I mean, it's just your buddies, right? So they're going to be kind of harassing you anyway all the time. I think the value of the box set plus whatever your time you figure is worth. Now, unfortunately, even if you charge like minimum wage, that's still going to up the price quite a bit. So you still have to kind of knock it back because this is kind of friend kind of prices, and so. And of course, if there is no time frame, I mean, like a simple box of Marines and it takes you 6 months to do, well, I mean, you can't really charge more than retail for that, right? I mean, like the guy's been waiting 6 months to, to get his Marines, right? So I think you're kind of off on the right track. If you're going to go commission painting and, set yourself time frames and adhere to that and, really try, then yeah, you got to up your values a bit. I find a lot of commission painters out there, they undercut each other and, they lowballing is all the time. But unfortunately, that's the only way you can get business, right? And it's really unfortunate that nobody wants to pay for the artist's ability. Even if they're getting like a famous artist, like not famous artist, but a relatively known miniature artist, and they still, you don't want to pay that price because they don't see the value of it having that actual person's work in your hand, and that's really unfortunate because, like for example, if I was to do a commission, it probably would not be worth my time today. It would not be worth my time, and if I was to charge somebody what it was all worth, nobody would pay it because a lot of people would see it as just it would cost too much. So it's a tough game. It's a tough racket to get into, and if it's just for your buddies, then I would keep it just as your buddies, and I'd keep it friendly. Just charge them the box, what the cost of the box was. That's about the easiest way I can think of it. Spedmutt92 at Kris, I love your painting tutorials. I've been playing Warhammer for 6 years now, and I've gotten a lot better at painting. And many of my friends asked me to paint some of their minis. I know I'm a better painter, but I know I'm better. Whoa, he knows he's better. But I always feel like my paint jobs are inferior to others because they are. But I'm trying to get around the obstacles that give me problems when painting. I can't always keep a steady hand while painting, and I have problems getting my brush into small parts of the models. I recently painted a Mauler Fiend, and I know probably messed up or missed some of the spots on it and aren't actually noticeable but it still irks me to know that they're there. Have you ever had any of these problems? If so, I would really like some feedback. Keep up the great work, and thank you. Yeah, all the time. A lot of the projects. A lot of the painting tutorials I do, like on video, I see tons of mistakes that I've made. And it's really because like, I have to move fairly quickly and try to be as efficient as possible when filming these videos because, there's deadlines, right? So I don't get to spend the amount of time that I would love to spend on where I can, get the edges nice and smooth or blend nice and smooth or, get these little details or, just all those little nuances that, you really want to get to and don't really get to. because under a timeline, and yeah, there's always tons of mistakes. There's always things you could have done, even color mixtures, highlights, how much to highlight, how far to take the highlight, how far should I push that shadow, all of these things all the time. Every model is the same way. It's not a new problem. You're not the only one who has that. Now, getting into like little nooks and crannies, always making sure that you have good brushes, long bristles for getting into some of those details like that. I'm just trying to think here. What else was there? Yeah, just getting into some of the details. Thinning your paints down, things like that. Using the right colors. Yeah, as far as like little areas that you miss, you see and you miss, but nobody kind of like notices. Don't sweat it. But I mean, like also you don't have to point it out every time you bring out the model and here's my model and everybody goes who and on, and then you go, well, I also missed this part and this part, and you don't have to do that. Let them find it for themselves if they're that observant. Just let people enjoy the visual experience of your work, and just kind of bite your tongue and just don't say anything and just I tried, and know that next time that you try better, you try harder, and you try and get those little areas that you missed last time. It's not always easy, but hey, Insane Zane, Kris, greetings from Kingdom of Sweden. I have 2 questions. I might have 2 answers. 1, on my Storm Talon gunship, I made the mistake of paint the wings black. How do I make them interesting to look at? Okay. 2, how did I end up at MiniWarGaming? Okay, well, I think I already answered the second question already earlier in the video. And as far as the Storm Talon gunship, he's made the mistake of painting the wings black. Is the entire gunship black, or is it something else? I mean, you weren't like working on your Imperial Knights gunship, and then our Imperial Fist, and then I was painting yellow, and then it went black. No, you didn't do that, right? You were painting it black, but now the wings are black, and so now you're wondering what can you do to make the Storm Talon interesting, right? That's what you're asking. Okay. Sorry, I had to kind of work out what exactly was the problem here. Accenting colors. You can try like golden yellow, red, you can try like the pinstripe lines, running. So if this is the leading edge of the wing, you could try lines that run the length of the wing like that. Not the length, the width. The width. We'll say the width. Anyway, like the Storm Talons, they have like those little panels that like on the ends of the wings. Color them yellow, red. I don't know, whatever kind of colors really kind of fit your Space Marine scheme, I guess, is really what it is. What chapter are your Marines? Like, are they Raven Guard? Well, then you're going to probably use like white, Red is also another good one. Red, black and red. It just looks kind of cool, If you really want to make the Storm Talon kind of interesting, you can also practice weathering. Now, there's videos in the vault, on all different ways of weathering, especially on top of black. But otherwise, using some colors, on black, I think yellow is one of the most striking. Red is really striking. White, you can throw on numbers. Maybe it's a part of a squadron, and you can paint, the Roman numerals or stuff like that, right? Man, there's all sorts of slogans, right? Like a lot of time in the Second World War, some of the vehicles and stuff like that would have slogans written on them and things like that. Maybe the Storm Talon has a slogan written on his tail or something. I don't know, but offhand, yeah, that's what I do to kind of dress up some of these models like that. If you're just gonna go with just a black vehicle, yeah, I would go with some accenting pieces, yellow or red or white. Typically a brighter color. Blue is all right. Purple is all right. Green's all right, but yellow is going to be the most contrasting, and visually, wow, that's interesting. Red is just going to give you that real nice kind of cool kind of look. White will also accent well it contrasts well with black, but especially if you go, again, if your chapter is black, then yeah, you probably want to use the typical motifs that are in the chapter. Pa1310, Kris, I have seen some really cool hydrographic patterns on car rims and RC cars. Do you think Hydrographics is a viable option for camouflage patterns for 40K transports? Now that I think of it, I have never seen Hydrographics on 40K models. No, I don't. Okay, for anybody who's not familiar with Hydrographics basically is this little skin that sits on top of water, and you push the object through, and the paint adheres onto it. And it's basically kind of think of it more like a decal, really, or a decal transfer. It just sits on the surface of the water, and you push your object through whatever you're doing. And they do it for a lot of automotive, fancying up cars, things like that. I've seen it for RC cars. They just dunk the top half of the car in, boom, you got your car, right? As far as 40K models, I've not seen it done, not to my knowledge. I'd imagine it's relatively easy to do something like that. It all depends on how it lays out on the model. Like if it lays out like a single kind of skin. So for example, say you had like the vision port of a tank door, right? Where there's like a little slit. Would the paint completely cover over that, or would it just sit on that surface and not bother going in, or right? You know what I mean? Like, is it an actual skin, or is it a very delicate layer of paint? Now, I've seen some use that technique for the paint on the water, and they basically free flow the paint. They just basically lay the paint on, and you get like this really kind of tie-dye, kind of crazy, kind of swirling kind of patterns, and you can dunk the model right in. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to try. It'd be interesting to try for doing it. What, for camouflage? You said? Yeah, for camouflage. Now I've seen digital camouflage done to car rims and stuff like that. I've seen it done. So if you had, say, for example, Lehman Russ tanks, and you wanted to do that technique and just kind of boom, hit the entire thing and just let the paint all sit on, because there's so many angles and faces, I think you'd have to work out a process of doing, say, for example, like say Lehman Russ. Let's take Lehman Russ for example, and you we're going to use this technique. I think you'd have to do like the turret first, and then the hull. You actually might have to do the two halves of the hull separately. Like where the tracks are, you might have to dunk those separately. Again, that's all theory. I've not seen it done. I'd imagine that probably the easiest, rather than having the whole tank all together and just dunking the whole tank. Because if you can imagine how, if you're holding the Lehman Russ upside down, right, the turret goes into the water, bang, and it starts taking up paint. And the paint kind of falls, and then it's going to follow that barrel, right? But will it come close enough when the rest of the tank hull meets? Or are you going to have this big seam line where that barrel left the gap, right? You know what I mean? See, there's all these things that you have to consider because there's so many facets. See, when they do like RC bodies, the body shell is just one complete piece, and they just go blook, and that's the sound it makes, blook, and you just dump the whole shell, and you have your paint job on there, right? Tire rims and stuff like that. Again, it's one solid massive form. Yeah, there are all those little cavities and everything like that, but they're not worried about the backside of it. Whereas with most of our models, we want the paint pretty much all the way around the model. And I mean, it's worth a try. It's worth a try. Don't get me wrong. It's worth a try. I think the easiest one to do would probably be something like a Necron monolith. If you left all the clear pieces off, dunked it, and then put the clear pieces back in, you get something pretty cool. A Lehman or a Land Raider. A Land Raider, I think, would be pretty easy to do. Because they're big. Like, think big boxy forms, right? a lot of Eldar vehicles would probably be really easy to do because a lot of Eldar vehicles, it's only the top half that often has the color and the bottom half is a different color, like a Falcon Grav Tank. The Altiok, right? The blue on the top with the whole kind of camouflage pattern, and then the underside is a bone color, right? So you can do those, you can do it in halves. You can just do that top half, dunk it, glue them together, and you're done, right? Possibilities are endless. So, thing is though, is if you do try it, you know, let me know. Send pictures. M Tempest, hi Kris. Knowing that you do a lot of intros, who does the voiceover? Is it all Dave, even the ones like the old World Wars? Thank you. Most of the intros, I do the graphics, like a lot of the older ones. I do the graphics. I'd get Dave to do his infamous voicing for it. Some of them though, I got a varied, like what was it, the Tau Orc campaign did a while back, where the orcs are chasing a Tau little piranha in the intro, and that was a combination of Rob and Leland and myself doing orc voices, and I did the Tau voice of the Riptides at the end also. I don't think, did I have Dave in that one? I don't know if I had Dave in that one. Yeah. But yeah, so most of them, yeah, it's Dave. I mean, you can kind of tell it's Dave, right? But otherwise, yeah. If I can, I try and get varying sources to do something kind of different, right? I think whenever we do these intros, we should always try to be pushing what we know we can do and what we've done in the past, and keep it interesting. You should always try and keep it interesting. I don't know if this is for me. Gork is the strongest. Do you like orcs? I do like orcs. Orcs are really great for painting because any level of painter can get into orcs. You could be a really good painter and orcs will look beautiful. You could be a really amateur painter and the orcs will still look pretty good. Conversions, you can be really crappy at doing conversions and it still looks pretty good. It still looks orky. And you can be really good at conversions and it'll still look really good because, they're good, right? So yeah, I like orcs, and I like old orcs, like from 2nd edition when they had a little bit more humor to them. I like my orcs with a little bit more humor. Now they make them kind of all scary and all bestial and stuff like that. And so it's kind of scary orcs has been done. I kind of like the comical kind of ones where they're just kind of maniacal and they're out to incite trouble, and like they're just constantly fighting, and they're orcs, right? So, yeah. Jedi22, hey Kris, what is your advice on painting Imperial Guard uniforms? As I'm finding it hard to do any recommended paint. Plus, love the painting videos. Keep it up. What's my advice on painting Imperial Guard uniforms? Finding it hard to do any recommended paint. Well, for like the Cadians, I mean, like the easiest is Castellan green, and then highlight it with it's Elysian green, and that'll give you your kind of dark military green kind of colors. I have a bunch of videos in the vault on doing camo patterns, even like digital camo patterns on Imperial Guard. I went through a whole series of them, like just a bunch. It was like doing like typical ones from like Vietnam, desert, urban, digital, a whole bunch of camo patterns. So you just gotta look them up. If you're a vault member, look it up. But as far as painting the uniforms, yeah, it's pretty real. It's pretty well straightforward. You kind of think of like, if you're gonna go off the beaten path and not do, a codex approved type color scheme, you're gonna make up your own. Then I would suggest start by looking at today's kind of modern uniforms and go from there. Just because it's just a good starting point, right? Go say for example, you wanted to go with a blue or royal blue, right? Which is kind of like a purpley kind of blue. I would go with like, that purple, like a royal blue on the armor, and then maybe a lighter blue in the cloth, right? With black boots, and probably a dark gray gun or maybe a black gun with silver. I wouldn't go old school or anything like that. I wouldn't give them like red guns or anything like that. That's kind of crazy. Black or dark gray, or even like I was gonna say dark green, but like an army green, But that looked like crap. But yeah, it is kind of tough figuring out what kind of uniform you want to do, especially if you want to do something different. The best is like if you're doing the pattern in your country's military uniform. That's one. There's one fellow we've had. Well, you guys have probably seen him in videos. His Imperial Guard are all done up like the Canadian Armed Forces. Excellent idea, and it looks great on the tabletop. So a lot of ways you can go. No, that's for Dave. Clicky Man. Kris, if you had any superpower, what would it be? I would probably, I'd probably have the powers of like Magneto. Yeah, magnetism. I think that'd be really cool. I like Magneto. Cassadar, the Spy Master. Kris, firstly, your stuff is beautiful and I'm very jealous of your skill. Now for an actual question. Do you play 40k War Machine? Insert any other game MiniWarGaming does. If so, what armies? Yeah, I do play a bunch of games. I haven't played really a whole lot in the last year or so, but I do play 40k. I've got a big Eldar army right there. Samhan, jet bikes. I really kind of like it for Apocalypse because I have like super heavy flyers, super heavies, Titan. I got a Phantom Titan, and I got all sorts of stuff for my army. Fantasy, I was into Bretonians, but they're collecting dust right now. For fantasy, War Machine, I like mercs and minions. I have a big, fairly decent sized mercenary army. My minions still just starting off. Blindwater, I like for them. If I was going to get into Infinity, I'd probably go with the US Ariana. Anyway, probably go with them because I like those new sculpts. They're pretty cool. But I haven't collected any of them. Games I play, right? Dystopian Wars. I have Covenant of Antarctica. I have a small fleet of that. Battlefleet Gothic. Play Eldar. Blood Bowl. I play humans. What else? I think that's it. Is that it? I think that's it. Let me have a look around here. Yeah, because I don't play Star Wars. I haven't played any Star Wars, Armada or otherwise, or X-Wing. Yeah, I mean, I was a big 40k kind of aficionado, but nowadays, recent years it was more War Machine. I got really into War Machine. I just like the rule set of War Machine. I like the conciseness of it, and yeah. But for the aesthetics, the look, the feel, it's hard to beat 40k. 40k is just such a fun game like that. Such a visual experience, So 40k would probably still be, number one in my books, with War Machine in a close second. I don't know if that's for me or not. Chosen One. Kris, hello. What is your greatest painting accident? For example, I used an ink-based wash as a finishing touch on a World War II airplane yesterday, and now it looks like a chip. I dipped it in sewage. Ew. Splotchy, stingy sewage. There's a heartache. On the flip side, what is your greatest painting success? Something you thought wouldn't work at all, but did anyway, and the effect blew your mind. For glory and repainting things, Chosen One. Geez, I don't know. Painting accident. See, because like when I was in school and we're drawing, and you make a little bit of a boo boo, you incorporate it into the drawing, and you just keep going. And so when I'm painting, if I make a boo-boo, I usually just incorporate it or, correct it, paint over it, whatever. As far as like something like I was painting and I just didn't think it would work, that's a tough one. Because sometimes I'll get into a project, even before I start painting, usually I think about the color scheme. What kind of color scheme I want to go through. Right off from the start, I think of, do I want to go with bright colors or do I want to go with subdued kind of colors? Do I want to go for kind of a realistic or do I want to stay with kind of like, an illustrated kind of cartoon kind of look? And that's basically where my process kind of starts as far as, where I'm going to go with a miniature. And sometimes it hasn't worked out and I've lost interest and I just never completed the project. So those are probably my biggest painting mistakes, is that I've not completed the project. And I have a lot of models around that are incomplete and I just wasn't too happy with. As far as biggest success, again, that's another tough one because, I'm usually not that happy with a lot of my models anyway, and so I don't think it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, and I was happy with my little gargoyle that I had done. I got him on my shelf somewhere around here. Only because I had done it so quickly. I had got it done relatively, like in just a few hours, and I'd gotten to a point where I was really happy with the effects. I could push the effects further and go further with them, but for what time I spent on him, and it was just kind of I opened it up and cleaned him up and did it, and it was just kind of one of those days where I just wanted to just kind of do something for me and not think about things. Yeah, that's probably one of my greatest successes is the gargoyle. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to go to for a showcase video. I also brought it to Adepticon as well. Put it in the crystal brush. But again, I didn't really spend that much time on it. But I just brought it just because, well, it was the only really complete piece at the time I had done. Again, a lot of incomplete pieces. So really those are my greatest mistakes, is not completing a lot of these projects. And probably that's probably the biggest one, is not completing. So if you finished a project, but you made a couple boo-boos here and there, that's no big deal. You got the project done. That's the important part, really. So always bear that in mind. Daka daka da boom boom. Daka daka boom boom. Daka daka boom boom. Kris, how are you, dude? I'm not too bad. If you could create a miniature war game from any movie or TV series, what would you choose and why? Aliens vs. Predator versus Colonial Marines might be cool, but I'm sure there's something more awesome out there. Keep doing your thing. Cheers. You know what? I would like to see. I'd like to see Babylon 5 return as a spaceship game. I can't quite reach the model right now, but I'd like to see Babylon 5 return as a miniature game. I want to see that. Another one would be like it'd be very limited, but it'd be very cool. Would be Battlestar Galactica. Something a little bit more in depth, though, as far as the space mechanics. Because the one thing I always liked about in Battlestar Galactica, the new series, not the old one, was the way they fought it out more like an actual kind of sea battle. Where, for example, if the Cylons are all coming in, there's a big wave of them, and the battleship is here, then they create a protective screen with all the guns at that certain distance, and they just basically create this big cloud of explosion and gunfire that the fighters can't enter it because they'll just get destroyed, right? And so they have to move around. And then so you have to get into these positions of where, okay, your fighter groups come around here, and whether or not to launch tactical nukes at each other, or if you're going to fire longer range weapons, or, those kind of things. And I'd like to see something kind of incorporate that kind of depth, where you have to control, where firing is going, where ships are going, where, possibly, your power allocations, things like that. And also have like really kind of cool, big kind of models too, for the tabletop, Because Battlefield Gothic, the ship, like the ship is not the model on the tabletop. really Battlefield Gothic, you could play that game with just flying stands because the stem is what represents where the ship, the space that the ship is actually occupying in the battle, right? And then the base, the stand of the base is representing like an area of effect. Like anything entering that area can affect the ship. And the model itself is just a representation of what ship that is. But otherwise, it's not important. It's kind of like War Machine as well. War Machine, the bases, tell you the volume of its size, what it can do, how big it is, everything like that. The model on the base really doesn't matter. You can have the model this high, and it's just a little infantryman standing on a pedestal. It doesn't matter because the volume of that base is going to only be so big. So anyway, yeah. Out of TV and movie franchise, yeah, I think that would be the coolest. Other than something, no, that's about it. Because we've already got lots of Star Wars. We've already got lots of 40K, and 40K really kind of covers a lot of bases in regards to like what you would like to see as far as the game is concerned. So, yeah, I'd like to see Babylon 5 return, the miniature game. I also like to see, Battlestar Galactica, an in-depth kind of Battlestar Galactica kind of game. I think would be cool, especially spaceships and stuff. And then you can have like boarding actions, and you have all these capital ships, and of course you can even do it as like kind of an alternate kind of scenario where it's the first time that they're using the battle stars, because you have the different kind of classes of battle stars, and so you can have them all, the Great War or whatever, right? Stuff like that. I don't know. But anyway, that's all the questions I have. Again, next week it's Steve, so just leave your questions for Steve. There won't be a sit and vault, as I just ran through all the questions, and so again, don't forget to ask those questions, unless of course you just like these one videos. But I don't know. But anyway, so don't forget, next week, Steve, and of course, if you're responding to anything I've said today, then of course leave it below @Kris, and of course I'll see you guys next time. Happy wargaming.